Welcome back to another Talent Talks podcast. I'm your host, Scott Rivers, and we are starting season 2 of this podcast. It seems like just yesterday we started talking to some of the industry leaders in sales and marketing and really the how-to guys to get things done in remote selling and marketing. And so as we finished up season 1 end of last year and started looking towards season 2, I started trying to figure out what's going to be the best information that we can give out to our clients on the life sciences side to determine or basically to figure out how best to sell during this time. Yes, there are people going back into the hospitals and laboratories. Is it at the volume that we would like? No. Do I think that it's going to go back to the way it was before the COVID-19 pandemic? I don't. And so I think that a lot of the things that we started talking about last year are still relevant. And so we're going to continue to make sure and include those things as we go through season 2. I think that one of the things we talk about today is really important. And that is, again, the marketing piece, but also the driving the sales and how do you do it in a remote environment. Before we go any further, I want to make sure that you know that you have free access to this book. It is The Art of Hiring A Players Today. It basically gives you the roadmap to identify and hire and retain the best candidates in the marketplace. I'd love to get your feedback on this. We've gotten a number of our clients who are using this methodology for hiring. They found it to be very useful for them. They've adapted it, they've changed it, they've made it more of what it fits in their culture, but use this as a roadmap. And I'd welcome any and all of you to do that. Feel free to get this using this link right here. I'll put it on the screen. And for those of you listening to the audio, I'll put it in the show notes. Today's guest is my friend, Jason Fair. Many of you are going to remember Jason, or at least remember his company, WireBuzz. And that's because Todd Hartley was on the show last year. And we talked about all the things that they were doing as far as marketing and sales and helping clients in many different industries, but they do a lot of work within our industry. So the life sciences, genetic space is also a very important area for them. Jason's role within the organization is really to help develop the content for inbound marketing, drive videos, and ultimately help to be remote sales, get better at remote sales. If you look at his tagline, I help businesses create digital buyers' journeys to drive ROI. Solid performance today coming in from Jason. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of you are going to remember Todd, and this is the WireBuzz website. You can see it here. You see Todd top left from what I'm looking at. Jason goes into even more information of what they're doing and how they're creating content and how they're helping their clients to drive revenue. Last thing that he gives you is he gives you free information on selling remotely to access your prospects. There's about 20 minutes of content for free on this website. It's wirebuzz.com/Jason. Again, I'll put it in the show notes. I'll make sure that it shows up here on the screen. Jason really does give a lot of information today that I think could help any and all of you. Remember, I want your feedback. Please get back to me. Let me know what you think of the Talent Talks podcast. Let me know what you think of Jason. Please go out and like his content and connect with him on LinkedIn. He would really appreciate it. He would really appreciate it, as would I. All right, let's get into it. Everyone ready? Season 2, Talent Talks podcast, starting off with my friend, Jason Fair. Jason, I am so glad to have you on the show today. I'm looking forward to it. I know that everybody's going to get a ton of valuable information from this call. So let's jump right in, but thanks for being here.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Scott. I appreciate you having me on the show, and I'm excited to provide some good value to your audience because we've got some challenging times.
No question about it. I think a lot of people are expecting that we're just going to come out of this and it's going to go back to normal and everything's going to be like it was pre-pandemic. And you and I've discussed it, and I've been having this conversation for a while. I think customers are starting to like the way that they're interacting with their salespeople and their marketing people. Are you seeing that as well?
Yeah, no doubt. And it's interesting now that we're post-pandemic, and we talk to our clients all the time and what are their needs, what are their pain points. And even now there's research coming out about post-pandemic, and to your point, are things going to go back to normal, or is this new digital wave of us interacting virtually with our customers and our clients, is that the wave of the future. And the research and my client interaction, and yes, we're getting clients saying this is the wave of the future. We're not going to be looking back. I think we can all recognize that this trend happened way before the pandemic hit. The pandemic just accelerated this digital experience by probably by a decade, right? So we were already in that trajectory, but this pandemic that we all were forced to go through, and crisis breeds opportunity, and now it's just made a big mind shift in people and how they're interacting with clients and solutions and products and services across every industry, really.
Yeah, I agree. Amazingly enough, though, we had technology to bridge the gap. People just weren't using it. But I think everyone is now a pro when it comes to using Zoom for video, or, if you've got Microsoft, you've got Teams, or if you want something free, you've got Google Meets. The technology was there, and it's only going to get better now that it's got such a focus on it. But I feel like it's not going to go back exactly the way it was. Somewhere there's going to be a blend of the two.
Yeah, no, I agree. And the sales process has totally changed. And it used to be, the sales rep or the seller was the quarterback and champion the whole sales process. Like, hey, let's go to this conference and I'll meet and I can tell you all about our solution. And when those days stopped, it was a mindset for people to figure out, well, I can't go to these conferences that we normally go to. What's the difference? How do we still create some sort of human to human interaction? And I think Zoom was that solution in the beginning. I think Zoom and GoToMeeting and those other virtual platforms will continue to be part of the technology stack for sellers, but also people are starting to get Zoom burned out, right? They're on Zoom 8 hours a day, 6 hours a day. And it's like, what are some other tactics that sellers can use beyond just Zoom? I mean, Zoom's going to be a part of it, don't get me wrong.
Sure.
But what are some other pieces of technology? Because now the days of, jumping on a plane or getting in a train or automobile and, being that road warrior, right? Those days are gone. And now it's, how can I equip my sellers with digital, becoming a digital warrior, I like to coin it.
Yeah.
And so part of it is, hey, what are those, technology pieces that a seller needs to have in their toolkit, right, to be successful in today's remote selling world?
Yeah, cool. And I know we're going to talk about some of those, but before we do, let's take a step back. I always like to find out from people, what they're doing to stay sharp and what they're doing to continue their learning process, right? Because all of us are just trying to learn during this time. And I think all the good people in sales and marketing continuously are trying to get better. So what are those things that you're listening to, reading, or watching that are helping you to stay sharp today?
Yeah, that's great. Great question, Scott. I'm a nerd for this topic. And, for me and sharpening my education for remote selling, it's binge-worthy information when it comes to just on LinkedIn. And I've got connections with a lot of people at research firms. And so some of the top research firms, McKinsey and Company and Forrester and Cirrus Decision. So all those companies now, they're all coming out with the reports to say, hey, here's what's going on. Obviously, I've got the pulse of my clients, but then when it's me talking about it, that's one thing. But then when I have additional resources and these research firms that are doing all of these in-depth research case studies, and they've got their clients and then they're interacting obviously with. So it's great to have that information that not only we're talking about, but other top-notch research firms that are doing this analysis, because the times have changed, and that's how I'm keeping up on it. So a lot of it's through just on LinkedIn learning. Obviously, podcasts are one thing, and then obviously the new surface when it comes to audio on Clubhouse.
Oh boy,
I've been on Clubhouse a little bit here. I've been testing that too, and it's been interesting to get on some of the speakers that are coming up on Clubhouse, and that's another trending platform for sure.
Oh, no doubt. And for all of you on Androids, and if you're not familiar with Clubhouse, if you haven't heard about it, hopefully it's going to make its way to Android, but it is, as of right now, it's iPhone only. And with the iPhone, you can jump into this platform called Clubhouse. And Jason, we should probably dig into it a little bit more, but I have found this to be a just fantastic tool for learning, because think of it as having like live podcast going off all day and all night around the world. And oh, by the way, you might be able to jump in and actually participate in that with some of the most renowned people globally when it relates to sales, marketing, real estate, you name it. You could talk to Jason Fair live on Clubhouse if you were on there.
Yeah, no, it's the rooms that are popping up and it's blowing up. I didn't even know it wasn't on Android. I was shocked when you mentioned that because I'm surprised. But I was just in a room the other day that had the co-founder of Netflix in this room, and they were picking his brain. It's like, holy crap, this is the Netflix co-founder. When do you get him live for free, spending an hour of his time? The room was packed, let me tell you. I mean, there was like, I think they reached capacity. I think capacity is now maybe 4,000 or 5,000 people, and they had reached capacity. But anytime you can get a stellar person like that at that level, oh man, I wasn't able to ask any questions, but don't get me wrong, just to listen to this person talking about how he launched Netflix and his habits and these things. I mean, it was super impressive for sure.
I tell you what, one of the things that we might do from this is maybe we'll schedule a Clubhouse room for an hour after this launches, and we'll jump on there and we'll let people ask you some questions live and talk to you. How's that sound?
Oh, I'd love to.
All right, let's do that.
Let's do that, Scott.
Yeah, Jason, obviously we've been connected for a while. What prompted me to reach out to you to do this is, I know WireBuzz, having talked to Todd last year and gotten a sense of what you do. I've had a connection to the company and really have enjoyed learning from both of you, but I continue to see you on LinkedIn pushing a couple of different things, a lot on video, and then a lot about that digital strategy, which we're going to talk about. But tell me what it is about LinkedIn that makes it such an amazing tool for you.
Yeah, for me, a couple things. One, the organic reach that you're getting on LinkedIn is unheard of right now when it comes to social platforms. So when you can post something organically and get the reach on a platform like LinkedIn that has 700 million users, it's pretty impressive. And I started my content strategy a couple of years ago, and I really pumped up the jam, with clients and even prospects. And don't get me wrong, it's like they mention LinkedIn several times. And even if you're not getting tons of likes, comments, and shares, with that organic reach that doesn't have to be paid, you're still getting exposure on that platform to people you're connected on. And I hear it all the time from my clients and prospects. Hey, saw you on this topic on LinkedIn. Can we have a conversation about that? And it's been a blessing. But the challenge with LinkedIn right now too, it's not really a challenge, but we don't know how long this organic reach will last.
That's right.
And what I'm trying to do is convert those over to our database. And so we have an owned audience versus a rented audience. And but again, LinkedIn's been great as long as you're helpful and not trying to go for the book meeting quickly, and you're providing value and you're nurturing your customers and prospects. And I know you do it all the time, Scott. I see you on there providing massive value. And if you're doing that, the meetings will happen.
Yeah. It's rare that and I know you're the same way. It's rare that I talk about something that we're selling or that we're trying to push. My goal is to add as much value as we can. And I've found, and a lot of people have said, the first person to provide the most amount of value is the winner, right? That's who people are going to think of. And so for me, it's staying front of mind to my customer base and the people within the genetics, diagnostics, and life sciences business. And it's working, right? For me, it's working. But I think you hit something important there. And it's a lot of people forget that LinkedIn is owned by Microsoft. And Microsoft at some point could pull this back and say, by the way, if you want this information, it's going to cost you. I mean, look at the price of Zoom Info. I mean, is it more important than Zoom Info, where it's going to cost you 25 grand or 30 grand a year for a few license? It could be that way. I don't expect it to that extreme, but it could happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And they continue to update the platform. There's stories on there now. And I think since the Microsoft acquisition, I've been on LinkedIn for probably a decade now. And at first it was just the resume place, and there was not a lot of social interaction. But obviously over the last couple, 2 or 3 years, it's pivoted. And now you have not only, and it's maturing still. It's weird. I mean, it's been around for so long, and it's been one of those platforms that now it's maturing to more than just B2B. You're seeing a little bit more different types of content that people are pushing out to be more like, more of my persona and my personality versus I got to talk about business here, right?
Right.
And it's interesting to see the growth of it and the maturity of it getting to the point where it's really turning into a social networking platform where people are putting themselves out there to be more authentic and more real, like they would on a Facebook or an Instagram,
Right.
but you still have that business impact of it. So it's that fine line that they're trying to, or at least it's maybe just organically going this way, but it's interesting to see the maturity level of LinkedIn now.
Yeah, I agree. And some people try to go a little bit too far in it and they get reprimanded like crazy on it, right? Everyone's like, hey, why don't you put this back on Facebook? But funny enough, I hope somebody from LinkedIn is listening. I still don't have stories. I don't have access to it. I can't do anything with it. Nothing.
Yeah, that's weird. I think a couple colleagues that I've spoken to too, that they don't have it either. And it's really odd. I've probably had it for at least maybe 5 months, 6 months, something like that. I don't know what I did to get stories. And if I did, I would tell you, Scott, so you could get stories. But I don't know what their secret sauce is for doing that. I have no idea. The one thing that I do know on stories, if you have at least 5,000 followers and you do a story, you can get the see more button, which is very similar to like Instagram, where you can swipe up as that feature. But you have to have at least 5,000 followers. That's the benchmark. But I don't know if that's the benchmark for stories, because I know some other people that have a lot more followers than I do. They don't have it either. And it's odd.
Yeah. I think if I'm not at 20,000, I'm knocking on the door. So
yeah,
it just, and I've sent a message to them and they're like, listen, it's rolling out, you'll have it at some point, but hopefully that does happen. Let's go back and talk about 2021. I know everyone likes to try and forget about it, but a lot of people had a phenomenal year in 2021. And so let's talk about what worked in 2021, the changes that people had to make, what pivots they had to make. And then let's talk about, 2022 and 23. What do you think is going to continue to work during that time? And what are the changes that people need to be ready for?
Yeah, no, great. Yeah, so for last year, obviously crisis breeds opportunity. It was a major crisis. And so when we're talking with our clients and how we kind of pivoted to understanding what they're dealing with was a lot of these remote selling tactics. And companies jumped on it fairly quickly. The ones that saw an opportunity, the ones that didn't maybe are starting to pivot now a little bit later on because they're fighting it. I think we talked about it early on. It's like some people still think, hey, in-person conferences are going to happen. We're going to get back to seeing our customers in person. We can go on those golf outings. We can have coffee and lunch and dinners and all that stuff's going to come back. So I'm not ready to pivot yet. So we've got some of those clients that are in that same space and recognizing we've pivoted to make sure we can service our clients based on the needs that they have. So we've been training selling teams for a long time before the pandemic. We just have brought it more to light to our current customers to say, hey, we have some great tactics that you can implement right away to make your sellers, because part of it too that happened last year was they started reducing the seller. Like, hey, obviously if we're not getting meetings, why do we have a staff of sellers of 100 people? We don't need that many anymore, right? Because revenue's down. So that was part of the trend for last year too. But if you've got less people selling, how can you still be effective in a remote world, right? So we were able to train anything from enterprise companies, right, to solopreneurs about some key technology stacks that they can use immediately to help ramp up with sales. And obviously virtual meetings like on Zoom were part of it, but you have to get someone down that buyer's journey before they want to jump on Zoom, right? You still have to prospect, right? You still have to reach out. How do you do that? And part of it has been through our training to use video, right, throughout the buyer's journey to influence, create that human to human connection. Because as I was mentioning, as we all know, golf outings weren't happening, lunches weren't happening, conferences were happening. So everybody's inbox, any solution that you're trying to sell to buyers, their inbox blew up, right? Now all of a sudden they had 30 some percent more emails than they had before. So how do you stand out in your buyer's inbox, right? So there's some cool things that we've been training way before the pandemic. We've just accelerated it, obviously, since the pandemic, but part of it is incorporating video throughout the buyer's journey and how you can influence them and still create that human to human connection that we all need and want before we can jump on a Zoom call, right? You need to show and tell them about your solution before they're ready to jump on that long hour Zoom call. So that's how we've pivoted and at least started this remote selling training. And we're a hybrid agency. So a part of it is doing this remote selling training that is for enterprise clients or for solopreneurs, but we're also a digital marketing agency as well that are creating these binge-worthy experiences online. So luckily we've been blessed. It was a great year for us, but we were also listening to our clients to understand how we can provide value to them. And there's certain key things that we've trained them on, which have helped them accelerate revenue in today's new world.
Yeah, very true. And you obviously think the video piece of that's going to continue on, right? So depending upon what product you're using or how you're using it, you're training people on when to introduce video. And is it as much to introduce product as it is to get people to know, like, and trust you? Or are you putting that personal spin on it just to get people to know who you are?
Yeah, you have to. And I was just on a call last week with a large training company, and they're like global. And I was asking them, how many people on your training that you're doing are using video through their buyer's journey? And he threw out a number, and I thought it was super low, but he was telling me that their client interaction, only about 5% of their sellers are actually using video through the sales process. And I was probably thinking more along the lines of maybe 15. I know it's really early. So if you look at like an adoption curve, like we're still really early in that video stage. And that's why we've pumped up the jam and training too, because we know that's a helpful thing to be able to do. And it's very low value to us, but it's huge value to our clients to be able to tell them, here's how you can do these, these remote tactics, and video is a big part of that, but then also telling them, hey, here's the technology that you can use. And oh, by the way, when you create these videos, you can actually track on the back end to see who's watching it. And again, it goes to my earlier analogy, going from a road warrior to a digital warrior. Now you're just looking at your customers a little bit differently, right? It's more on the digital side and understanding, hey, if I create this video and I can see on the back end to see who's watching it, right? That makes me more efficient because I'm going to follow up with that person that crushed my video.
Right. Yeah. Who's watching it longer? Who's watching it more? Yeah. How often do they watch it? Did they send it to someone else? And I think most
to your
of the tools,
point, it brings that know, like, and trust. And it's about that human to human connection. And typically the videos that we're recommending, it's just an extension of your buyer's journey, your conversation. So it could be an icebreak video, but then it could also be like a follow-up video that you do to make sure that you're answering those frequently asked questions that you normally get about your solution. And if that person's not able to jump on that Zoom call, why not create a short 2-minute video? Because they have that question probably in the back of their mind. Right. So if you can just be helpful and just say, hey, a lot of our clients have these types of questions about our solution. Here's your answer. And then they can watch it on their own.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. It's funny. We started really pushing LinkedIn video just native. And I know there's other tools, but even LinkedIn native, you're getting more responses from that. So if you go to LinkedIn and you're sending someone a message, you have to be connected to them. They don't want you using Sales Navigator for that, because can you imagine if I could do video on Sales Navigator, the whole world would be seeing my face. So there's a reason why they don't do that. But we had a lot of our customer base, after listening to, Todd last year and others that we have on, start calling me up and actually sending me video. Hey, Scott, we did it. We started sending video via LinkedIn. Yeah. Jason, what other tools? Maybe give some specifics. So if you're training in, and I know we've got mutual friends and even customers in the space, but if you're training in the life sciences, genetics, diagnostic space, what are some of the key tools and tactics that you're telling them, hey, start this day one?
Yeah, absolutely. The number one tool, and we all have it, right? It's called this phone. And the easy thing about this is high quality. Use what you got, right? You don't need to purchase this high-end equipment, cameras, those sorts of things. And literally part of our training is how you can leverage your phone to create these personalized one-on-one videos, but recognizing that our clients are similar in the life science and genetic and genomic industry. There's a couple apps that are called teleprompter apps that we are recommending. So If it is something where marketing's got to get involved and legal, regulatory, and these videos are short, right? They're 60, 90 seconds at the most. But if you need to keep a seller on track, right, with what the things they're saying and don't want to get in trouble with legal or regulatory, typically we're recommending, hey, work with your marketing team, work with your legal team, create this script that your seller can use. Mm-hmm. But most of the time, you're not selling through these videos. You're just trying to interact with them. But if it comes to a point where you need to share some information more about the product or the solution, we've got some workarounds in the life science, genetics, genomics space where they can use this teleprompter app, deliver it on point, on key, and still deliver that message. And then we give tips and tricks about, hey, check your background, make sure there's lighting in front of you, not behind you. Mm-hmm. And there's little things that we train to make a huge difference, because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that when they're delivering that video, that they're actually watching it, right? I mean, that's the key thing. So that's one tip for sure, teleprompter app. And if you're delivering a 90-second, you want to be succinct and to the point, that's a great tool to use.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, I'm finding that more and more things are popping up during this. I mean, one that I found and I throw out there, there's an app called Big on the iPhone. Have you seen this one?
No.
And so if you go to, I don't know if we want to do that here, but if you go to, I think it's just called Big. Yeah. So what's cool is with this, if you're doing a video, and then I'm going to turn myself off here, but if you're doing a video and you just want to show something quickly,
there you go.
You throw it up like this. And for those of you listening, I've got on my phone, it just says, "Hi, Jason." But there's a lot of videos that'll make a lot of video apps that will make a GIF file, which is a moving, flat, I guess you'd say, image, but it shows you a couple of the first few seconds of the video. And that's a way also to get someone's attention when you're going in.
Yeah. And as I was, just to piggyback off that, Scott, when marketers, or it doesn't matter who it is, everybody's inbox got blown up. So how do you hack the attention? How do you stand out? And there's a platform that we use to create a lot of these videos too. It's called Vidyard. I'm sure you probably have heard of it too. And they've got a really cool, slick feature for sellers too. And to your point about that animated GIF, once you record it, they have a really easy mobile phone app to use, and it's called Vidyard. I'll send you the link, and you probably have know who they are anyways, but you can record directly to the platform. And then they have a feature where you can select animated GIF. And then when you copy and paste it inside the email, that's that animated GIF that's playing. Obviously you can't play the video inside the email,
right? But
you click on that animated GIF, and now you're taken to a custom landing page where they can watch your video. And then it's pretty cool. This is one of my other tactics. You can include, and I get these all the time, to book a meeting on that landing page. You can either turn it on or off, or you can put a reply down below. And I've gotten a lot of replies just from people to be like, "Oh my gosh, you created this video for me? This is great. Thanks for reaching out." And I get a lot of that because, as I was mentioning, I mean, I'm in this space, and when it's like only 5% of sellers are using video right now, and that's going to be the wave of the future, that's my attention hack, right? To stand out and still try to create that human to human connection. And Vidyard's one of the tools that I use, part of my tool stack for selling, for sure.
That's cool. Yeah. That call to action at the end is fantastic. Nice feature for it. Let's move to marketing if we could. So again, talking within this same industry, I've said this since the pandemic started. So a year ago today, I started saying marketing is going to be more important now than it ever has been, because I feel like buyers, regardless of whether it's B2B or B2C, and I think those lines are blurred at this point, but I feel like people are going down the road of learning about what they want to buy before they ever talk to someone. So if they're doing that, what is the role that marketers have to play right now, and what do they need to do? What should they have started a year ago? But if they haven't, what do they need to be doing right now to get into the forefront of their buyers' minds?
Yeah, no, it's a great topic. And unfortunately, marketers have more burden than ever.
Yeah.
They're tasked now with everything from, lead nurturing all the way to almost like customer service, right? So I think the big thing during the pandemic, everybody was just reacting to everything and trying to figure out what's going on. Now, my number one thing that I tell marketers, it's like, you got to fight for budget. Because if you're burdened for lead nurture all the way to customer service, you need to create a lot of content.
Right.
And to be able to do that, whether that's in-house or hiring an agency, doesn't matter. You're going to need budget, because if prospects are going down their own journey, like you said, and we call it going down their own rabbit hole, and when they're almost consuming 80% of the information digitally and online before they even talk to sales. And so there's still a little bit of a disconnect between budgets of, the sales team has this, but now that the sellers have reduced, right? I don't know if that shift's happening. At least the clients that I'm talking to, they still are fighting for the budget. So
of course,
they're going to probably continue to fight the good fight to be able to get that. But the burden's heavy on marketers, and now they just need to be able to understand. And it used to be like 82% of people didn't want to talk to a seller before. And this is like in 2018. Now it's probably, with the pandemic, it's probably like 90, 95%. I haven't seen some stats lately, but it's super high.
Sure.
Right. And I mean, we're getting now to the point where with clients and just people in general about how many pieces of content they need to review before they're ready to convert. Right. We're getting down to that science to be like, oh, I know for this product or this service or this solution, these people are binging 20 pieces of content. Maybe it's 15. And so marketing now has like the data to understand, well, we need to enable our sellers to have this information, but also marketing needs to champion some of it too. So what's the disconnect on the seller side to provide that information from marketing to sales? Because we know at this point in the buyer's journey, this prospect needs to be consuming this piece of content. Right. So it's becoming a real art and science, right, from a messaging standpoint, but the data's there. And it's a super good topic, but budget's still a concern at this point.
Sure. Now, as you guys step in and start talking to marketing teams, do you help them to identify what their buyers are looking for at certain times through that journey?
Absolutely. Yeah. So we do a full roadmap digital strategy analysis, and part of it is understanding who their personas are, who their core customers are. And then we do like a marketing content audit to understand, because typically there's gaps in that information. So when we do this analysis, it's like, if you've got a leaky faucet, you see some of those drips, and typically we see some of those drips, right? And we understand, oh, you need to either create this piece of asset to plug that leak, or your sellers need to talk about this situation here, because if you're not providing clarity through your buying process, right, people aren't going to buy. Mm-hmm. If there's confusion that's happening, and we can address that confusion throughout the buyer's journey by plugging certain pieces of content in there. And sometimes it's video, sometimes it's a white paper, sometimes it's just getting that information out there on a custom landing page where people can nurture it on their own. And it's great to be able to provide that, because when we know that people want to go down their own rabbit hole, we just need to make sure that client has the right information to nurture them once they're ready to talk to sales.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. It's interesting because I personally see myself doing that. And so, it's funny though, managing the marketing side of what we do, I'm sure that there are a lot of questions, and I should be doing more videos on it, but I'm sure there are a lot of questions that our potential clients would have about us or the project or the way it would work, that I could create that content as well. So sometimes it just takes a third party coming in and saying, okay, listen, we talked to these number of buyers. This is the information they're asking for. And by the way, you don't have it. So let's help you create it.
Yeah. I mean, the old days of a one size fits all marketing approach for personas, it doesn't work anymore. Now it has to be hyper relevant. So when I land on this page or get this information, I'm like, oh, this is for me. Mm-hmm. I can go down the journey, and I understand they're resonating with it. So part of it is, what's the marketing argument, or what's that thought linear sequence of somebody going to the page for the first time? You need to resonate with them at the very top of the page so they can go all the way down to your point of, oh, this is for me. This is the solution. And oh, I've got these last lingering thoughts and questions. And then you address those. Then all of a sudden, boom, that person's got 80% of the information. And they're like, no, I'm ready to talk to someone in sales. Right. And at that point, it's just more like terms, conditions. And we're telling clients, make sure you put pricing on that page too, because like you said earlier, that B2B and B2C world, they're blending now. Mm-hmm. And when I'm doing research on anything, what's always the top question? What's your price?
Sure.
Or what's your value? So in some situations, if you can't address the price in either a number perspective, you just need to have the opportunity to tell your value, right?
Right.
And you need to be able to address that, and you need to talk about your competitors. I know it feels kind of icky, But you need to talk about how you're differentiating yourselves, because guess what? They're going to have 5 browsers open and 5 of your competitors are going to be on that tab. And so if you can control the conversation on that page and talk about your competitors, and you don't have to beat them up, you just have to tell about how you're different, right? And that comes through your marketing message. But then also you have to address price, because those are the things that they want to know. And then once you've addressed those, you've made that contact with them, they understand, then they're going to be like, oh yeah, let's talk to sales now. I understand all the information. You've answered everything that I did. And I did this on a Saturday night. I didn't have to talk to somebody in sales, right?
That's right. Yeah. So do you find that, and obviously we continue to say it, but we serve in a lot of the same industries. I know you do other industries as well, but do you find that the life sciences industry is starting to take some cues from the SaaS industry when it comes to this? Because to me, I mean, the SaaS world has always had SDRs, inside sales, right? Leading them to an account manager. They could always go online and find about us, about the product, see videos about the product. They could see comparative videos about the product. And oh, by the way, there's pricing. So we're almost carrying people down a road that SaaS figured out a while ago.
Right. Yeah, no, it is for sure. I think they started the trend. There's a couple of industries that started that too. And it's just a consumer, no matter if you're a researcher, you're academic, you're an oncologist, you're human, right? Mm-hmm. You're doing your research. You want to understand what's going on about that product or solution. So you want to address everything that you can and spoon feed them, right? It's the helpful is the new viral. Mm-hmm. And so what we're training clients even to make sure that they have like a knowledge center, like an information center that someone can go onto their website just to do even more of a deeper dive. And part of that is having video content on there, but part of that too could be case studies and white papers and things that they can just learn about your product or service. So then that way, that person's got everything that they need at their fingertips.
Right.
And so it's definitely changed the landscape for sure.
Yeah, it's funny because if everyone knows the name HubSpot, and so if you ever want to go and look at HubSpot, you can do a search for that product and compare it to anything you want online. And oh, by the way, you can compare pricing because they're not the low-cost provider. So if you're only looking for a few items, maybe you want to look elsewhere. But I feel like that's where our industry might be going, or at least a part way down that road to say, hey, here's all the information you need to decide, are we the right fit for you, for your laboratory, for your business? Jason, let's go big picture down to small picture. Let's give everyone listening something that's going to help them out today to be more effective. So strategic to tactical, what's something that everybody who's listening this today, going into 2021 and 22, what's something they should implement today to start being more effective, whether it be marketing, sales, whatever's customer centric? What would that be?
Yeah, for sellers, since only 5% of the sellers in the world right now are using video for prospecting, I would say start changing our mindset of thinking that things are going to go back to normal. And they may go back to normal a little bit, but the wave of digital is here and it's going to stick around. So for sellers out there that haven't, flexed the muscle when it comes to creating your own personal videos for outreach, so you can stand out in today's busy inbox. Mm-hmm. That's the number one tactic that we're training, and we're having some huge success. It's like I said, it's early adopters, but if you can get the mindset of, hey, I know I can't jump in the car. I know I can't have this meeting. I need to figure out how I can set up my home office that's conducive for me to record some videos and reach out that way. And what they need to have the mindset of, hey, do I need to type this up, or can I create this short video that's 90 seconds and put video at the subject line and try to stand out in that inbox? Sellers need to make sure they're training that new muscle. Yeah. And it just takes that mindset to be like, hey, this is effective. It's pretty interesting that we've trained a lot of these enterprise companies. And the first thing that we do is we say, hey, we need a pilot test. We need like 10 sellers to get them to adopt to it. Once they start seeing the success, that's going to permeate through the rest of the organization. Right. But we need to start small and get the mindset and then have them retrain. And even if you're a solopreneur, same thing, because you're up against a lot of competitors and video's still not used that much through the buyer's journey. And if you can stand out, that's my number one tactic for sure right now for remote sellers. And then to switch to marketing side, I know I mentioned it earlier, but if you're burdened, which we know they are, with basically nurturing lead gen all the way to customer service, you need to make sure that you're fighting for that budget so you can have enough budget to be able to create this content. And whether it's in-house and developing your own team, right, or working with a couple agencies outsourced to help you create this, but really funneling that whole buyer's journey and how you can map out the content that they need. But of course, you need budget for that, right?
Sure, got to have the money.
Yeah.
All it takes is time and money, Jason. You can do anything in the world with time and money.
I know. Right. Agreed.
Well, before we move into my last question, Jason, let me ask you this. What did we not talk about today that you had on your list of things that you wanted to make sure that we covered?
Yeah, one thing I wanted to mention for the digital warriors now, I know we talked about LinkedIn a lot, and like Navigator, using that as a tool. We talked about video. We touched base a little bit on HubSpot, but the other two tools that I use on a regular basis, we are HubSpot users here at WireBuzz, but I also use the Sales Hub on HubSpot.
Okay.
So I don't know if your audiences have used or even heard of the Sales Hub on HubSpot, but it's super effective. There's some cool things that you can do, from very entry level stuff, from like even just having a booking link to my calendar.
Right.
Some sellers I talk to don't even have that. So that's our new digital warrior, right? Where you can send a booking link to a customer or prospect to say, hey, if you want to schedule some time on my calendar, here's the link. Because the back and forth, like the 10 emails, just so ineffective. And it's very, it's kind of aggressive nowadays, right?
It is.
People are used to doing those things on their own. So if you just say, hey, when it's convenient for you, book some time on my calendar, here's the link, and you're just helping them and self-serving them, right, to make it easier for them. And I've probably booked more meetings that way than back in the day when I'm like, hey, let's do this on Tuesday at 3. Does that work for, like, you're trying to speed up the sales process, but maybe that customer's not ready to talk to this week.
Right.
Right. The other thing too would be, that's been something we've trained clients, customers, sellers, and then just myself, is you need to have a content strategy now if you're a seller, right? Because no matter if you're selling widgets or devices or whatever it may be, if you're not creating some content either on LinkedIn or YouTube, and it doesn't have to be super robust, but you almost want to become your own like thought leader in your industry. And it doesn't have to be like this major thought leadership style topics, but just think about the pain points of your customers and what they're going through. And there's your topics. And it's something you don't have to like post a video every day or post aggregate content every single day. But what's going to happen now that we've gone to social selling is the prospects that you interact with, guess what? They're going to go to your LinkedIn profile and they're going to check you out.
That's right.
And then they're going to be like, oh, wow, this person's talking about the same things that I'm going through on these pain points. Maybe I should reach out to them. And so now you're aligning with your audience and you're making sure that you have some sort of helpful information, because that's the new viral, right? So not only are you, being helpful with these different topics that you're laying out, but now you become a thought leader. So when they're ready to reach out to you, they're like, oh, that's right, Scott does these things. I know I'm not ready yet, but man, I know I'm going to need him probably maybe in 6 or 7 months. And he's providing so much value up front. So even if you're a seller, you still need to create that and become that digital warrior and just up your game with social selling.
Yeah. And I love what you just said, though. It's every question that one of your customers asked, most of your other customers probably have the same question. If I was in a marketing role today, I would be reaching out to sales every time they had a big call to say, hey, what questions came up? Just tell me what questions came up. Because then I'll help you produce the content and help you get that information out to a wider audience. And so I think that those are good. Very good. Thank you so much for that. Jason, we like to talk, we're all about talent here, right? We focus on talent and talent acquisition and making sure that we get and keep the best talent. What are the things that you look for when you're adding people to the team at WireBuzz or where you've interviewed people in the past? What are the things that you look for and ultimately hire for in an organization?
Yeah, obviously experience is huge. That's the number one thing, but also just authenticity and knowing people, because some people we can train, right? And so knowing that their mindset is of the helpful nature. And I know it's not a major like seed to plant, but that's what we look for too. And how they fit into our company culture is another big thing, right? Because all it takes is one bad apple to spread the seed that's all of a sudden the culture gets ruined. It's a little bit, it's now that we're not in person in an office environment, most of us are working remotely. It's probably not as challenging as before, but when you're in the office, right, you want to make sure that everybody aligns with culture and mentality and has that servant's heart to be able to service customers and clients. And that's typically what we're looking for.
Yeah, very cool. It's funny you say that. I posted something this morning about, hiring and making sure you get the right hire the first time because there's a big cost to it. And somebody commented that, you look for past performance. That's the best predictor of future success, which I tend to agree with. But to me, I agree with you. You've got to find the right culture first. If culturally it's not a fit, I don't care how good they are. It's not going to work.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Just like any sports team organization. I mean, part of it is, this player has the greatest stats, but how are they off the field? Like, I think most sports organizations are looking at that too, to be like, hey, if we bring this player in, how are they going to mesh with the rest of the team? Like, if you have a core group of people, that's part of your analysis, right? Do we want to bring them in? Is it going to cost too much riff? What's the background? What's the vibe are we getting on these virtual calls? And a lot of times what we're doing for our talent to hire them, we take them through like some easy exercises where maybe they're laying out a strategy, or maybe they're doing a video proposal to us, presenting themselves on camera, and really understanding what they're like, because that's the world we're interacting with our clients. Some of it's going to be in person at some point, but at this point it's like, so we're looking at how's their background look? What's their lighting look like? Are they presenting themselves? Because they're not only representing themselves, obviously, but they're representing us and the brand.
Yeah, that's right. So true. Well, awesome. Well, and one more point. If you think that keeping and retaining talent is not very important, ask the New England Patriots, and then go down and ask the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, what's most important. Jason, where can people find you, and where can people learn more about you? And do you have any programs coming up that people could sign up for?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm always on LinkedIn, so feel free to connect with me, follow me, DM me. I answer everybody's request. The other thing would be two resources here. One, I've got 20 minutes of free training for those remote sellers that are looking to flex that muscle or train that new muscle for remote selling tactics. And if they just go to wirebuzz.com and then /Jason, they can get access to that free 20 minutes. We're also launching a new ice-breaking course on LinkedIn specifically. So if you're trying to brush up on your social selling skills and not for sure maybe how to start ice-breaking on LinkedIn for new prospects, we're just fine-tuning that URL right now, but I can send that to you, Scott, too, so you can put it in the show notes.
Awesome.
And I'll send that to you, too.
We will do that. Jason, It is always good catching up with you. I always learn something, and I continue to learn from you on LinkedIn. Appreciate you being on the show, and let's do this again sometime. All right.
Absolutely, Scott. I appreciate it. And hopefully the audience has got some good value here, and anytime, man, we go way back and look forward to reconnecting too on this.
They're going to be reaching out.
Clubhouse. We got to get Clubhouse going.
Let's do that. After we launch this, we'll plan one.
Yeah,
all right,
sure.
Man.
Awesome.
Thanks, Jason.
All right. Take care, Scott. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye. You've just listened to another Talent Talks podcast with your host, Scott Rivers. Today's guest, Jason Fair. Everyone, please do me a favor. Go out and connect with him on LinkedIn. Go ahead and connect with Todd Hartley if you haven't as well. Also at WireBuzz. Let him know that you found them here by listening to us on the Talent Talks podcast. You're going to get a lot of great information from them. They're both posting awesome content on LinkedIn, giving you how-tos and giving away free information on how to make you and your teams better. As always, if there's anything that I can do to provide more value to you, please let me know. If there's specific content or people or, hey, Scott, I need to know how to do this, send me an email at srivers@cercatalent.com, CERCA talent.com. I will definitely respond to you. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. My LinkedIn is linkedin.com/in/Scott Rivers. I will absolutely respond back to you. I look forward to your feedback, your content, and your wisdom, and I look forward to seeing you right here on the next Talent Talks podcast.